What's up, YouTube? Welcome to another Counting Wisdom YouTube video for today. Today is the 3rd of June. I had to think about that for a second, but yeah, it's the 3rd of June. And so I wanted to talk about Luke chapter 21. And is it the end? Are we in the end times? And obviously we're in the end times because, God said through Peter that the end of all things is at hand. So technically it's already ending, but I wanted to look at more closely and Luke chapter 21. I'm reading from the NLT version, and it says from Luke 21 verse 8, Jesus is speaking of the future here, and he replied, "Don't let anyone mislead you, for many will come in my name, claiming, 'I am the Messiah,' and saying, 'The time has come,' but don't believe them." So that's a great thing to note, is that there's sometimes you have a lot of people out there where they're giving a time frame of the end, as in like it is immediately happening. And from this verse right here, we can see that it doesn't necessarily happen immediately, but it is happening. So eventually, the time will come, but it may not be as immediate as you think. But don't believe them. When you hear of wars and insurrections, don't panic. Yes, these things must take place first, but the end won't follow immediately. So there you go. So when we hear of wars, things happening in Israel, it's not necessarily the end. Nation will go to war against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, and there will be famines and plagues in many lands. And there will be terrifying things and great miraculous signs from heaven. So we're definitely experiencing, nations have gone to war against nations. This was written 2,000 years ago. And so there have been so many wars in between this being when Jesus was here on the earth talking about it until now. And so that's one perspective that you should take. And there will be great earthquakes, and there will be famines and plagues in many lands. And there will be terrifying things and great miraculous signs from heaven. But before all this, there will be a time of great persecution. Okay, so it says, but before all this. So clearly we are in the time where there will be, we have been in the time where there's been nation going against nation and kingdom against kingdom. I'm at verse 10 and 11 so far. There will be great earthquakes, and there will be famines, there will be plagues in many lands, there will be terrifying things and great miraculous signs from heaven. So I think we've seen that. I'm not so certain about the miraculous signs. I do see people saying yes, there have been miraculous signs, but I don't necessarily I haven't really seen too many miraculous signs from the sky recently, but I have seen, obviously we've seen maybe space travel, a man's been on the moon, different things like that could sort of be in that. But again, that's iffy, that last part, for great miraculous signs from heaven. But before all this, the disciples were persecuted, dragged into the synagogues and prisons, and they stood trial before kings and governors because they were followers of Jesus. And at that time, it was Jewish. It was basically Jewish. The law was given, and so the Jews were following the law, and they didn't know anything about the Messiah coming exactly when he did, and so they were not really expectant of Jesus. And so don't worry in advance about how you answer charges against you. So Jesus then gives some advice. I will give you the right words, such wisdom that even your opponents will be able to refute you. Even those closest to you, your parents, brothers, relatives, and friends will betray you. So at that time, the disciples were betrayed by, their friends, because they're like, the parents were like, oh, my son or daughter believes in Jesus, let me turn them in. They could have been thinking like, oh, let me give them help. Sometimes parents think like that. But anyway, relatives, friends, they betrayed them. And so they will even kill some of you, and everyone will hate you because you are my followers. So back when Christianity was starting, this new, it wasn't new, but it was kind of new, because Jesus was refining what Jews already did. And so basically everyone hated them. And he said, by the hair of your head, but not a hair of your head will perish. By standing firm, you will win your souls. So he was giving them some advice. And then he goes back into talking about more future events at verse 20. So I would say from verse 12 to verse 18, it's talking, verse 19, it's talking about what the disciples specifically went through. Now he picks up again talking about future events at verse 20, because we know this has happened. So it's kind of easy to weigh it against what history has already proven. And so that's why I'm able to be like, oh, he's speaking about the future. So anyway, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then you will know that the time of its destruction has arrived. Then those in Judea must flee to the hills. Those in Jerusalem must get out, and those out of the country should not return to the city. For those will be days of God's vengeance, and the prophetic words of the scriptures will be fulfilled. And so for me, actually, what comes to mind is something in the future as well. So I think some people take this to be something that happens in the future, but for now we'll stick with it was something that when Jerusalem was destroyed, and I believe they say it was 70 AD. You should probably know that already. It was destroyed around 70 AD. So how terrible it will be for pregnant women and for nursing mothers in those days. For there will be disaster in the land and great anger against this people. They will be killed by the sword and sent away as captives to all the nations in the world. So that's what happened. So this is talking about a past event. And Jerusalem will be trampled down by the Gentiles until the period of the Gentiles come to an end. So some people believe that the period of the Gentiles came to an end in around 1948, when Israel became a nation again. And so the Gentiles, the period of the Gentiles came to an end because back then it was all Gentiles, so it was all there was no Israel really, and so the whole nation was scattered and Gentiles took over Israel. And so okay, so now in verse 25, again we're in Luke chapter 21. Now in verse 25 he picks up and says, there will be strange signs in the sun, moon, and stars. So I believe this is talking about our time period now. So after 1948, Jesus is again picking up about future events, and he's way far in the future now, telling us what's going to happen. And so there will be strange signs in the sun, moon, and stars, And here on earth, the nations will be in turmoil, perplexed by the roaring seas and strange tides. So you could say that's happening. I mean, if you want to view like climate change, people are kind of like unsure why tides and the seas are doing what they do. Okay, people will be terrified at what they see coming upon the earth, for the powers in the heavens will be shaken. Okay, so this is a great explanation because we will see the powers of the heavens will be shaken. You know, so I don't think we've seen that yet. I haven't really seen any videos on YouTube explaining, like, you know, that the powers of the earth were shaken. And so the verse 26, people will be terrified at what they see coming upon the earth, for the powers of the in the heavens will be shaken. Okay, so verse 27, then everyone will see the Son of Man coming on a cloud with power and great glory. And so I believe this is talking about the rapture here. So basically, a sign for the rapture is verses 25 and 26. So there will be strange signs in the sun, moon, and stars. Here on earth, nations will be in turmoil, perplexed by the roaring seas and strange tides. So we're going to see roaring seas and we're going to see strange tides. People will be terrified at what they see coming upon the earth, for the powers in the heavens will be shaken. So we should be seeing, you know, the stars doing crazy stuff, basically, and powers in the heavens. Anything that happens in the sky, you know, I can't really tell you exactly what that looks like, but I'm pretty sure that means something with the stars. Then everyone will see the Son of Man coming on a cloud with power and great glory. So if you want to believe in the rapture, and you're looking for evidence of the rapture, verse 27 is great because it says that everyone will see the Son of Man coming on a cloud with power and great glory. And we know the Bible talks about Jesus taking us up in a cloud. And so when all these things begin to happen, stand and look up, for your salvation is near. So I believe verse 28 is talking specifically to the reestablished Jews that are now there in Israel in 2021, because the church gets raptured. And so when all these things begin to happen, it says stand and look up, for your salvation is near. But also that's a message to us as well, because, you know, when we see all this, we know that we're about to get raptured. And so I wouldn't say that we've seen, you know, the powers of the heavens will be shaken. I wouldn't say we've seen that yet. So sometimes when you see people saying that the rapture is tomorrow, you know, the rapture is, you know, this, that, or the other, you have to ask yourself, have you really seen all of this that is happening in verses 25 through 27 of Luke chapter 21? So below, Jesus gives an example of how you can tell when something is ready to show that the time is near. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. I hope that you got an explanation, and my explanation is saying that we still have a few more things to see before the rapture. I hope that was helpful, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Have a great day.